President Trump or Governor DeSantis? Whose endorsement could influence next year's election in Florida more? It's early, but another candidate joining the race, Paul Renner, brings a Northeast Florida connection to the campaigns. Our political analyst sizes up the race more than a year from any final vote. We're also talking about opportunities for veterans and life-saving comedy on This Week in Jacksonville. So glad you're with us today, and thanks for joining us. So it is official. Another political heavyweight has entered the race for Florida governor. Former House Speaker Paul Renner has entered the race. He's got a formidable opponent in the primary. That would be Trump-endorsed South Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. Renner sat down with News4Jax reporter Scott Johnson.
Well, we're excited to be joined by former House Speaker Paul Renner. Paul, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Scott, great to be here.
Well, let's just not bury the lead. You have some big news for us.
I do. And you know, as a father of young children, I think about the future a lot and what's going to happen when Governor DeSantis is gone, who's going to be ready to step in and fight and deliver results. And I've done just that, 20 years in the military, 2 wars, as a state prosecutor and as a successful Speaker of the House. And so after a lot of prayer and with the support of my family, I will be running for governor, and I'm ready to step in on day one and deliver results, because that's what I did.
This is on a level that's hard to describe, a difference between House Speaker at the state level and governor. There's so much more pressure. There's so many more eyes on you. There's so much more politics involved. Are you ready for that jump?
Well, there's a lot of eyes on as Speaker, and you know, we tackle things that people said couldn't.
But not necessarily in the media. I mean, the media,
Right.
The average citizen knows their governor, and they're going to look to you whether they like something or they don't like something.
Yeah, well, I can answer that question. So when I was 23 years old, I was on a Navy ship out of Jacksonville, but we were in the Persian Gulf during war, navigating through mine-infested waters. I had a security clearance at 23 to guard our nation's secrets. So my whole lifetime has been positions of trust where I've led under pressure and led successfully, and I'll do that again as governor.
We need to talk about the politics of this because they are real. And before you even run in a general, you have to run in a primary.
Sure.
And we have been made very well aware through a presidential endorsement of Congressman Byron Donalds of South Florida. Your thoughts on, I guess, who will likely be your highest profile competitor?
Yeah, and look, ultimately our competitor are the Democrats at the end of the day. But some people will look at endorsements only, but most people are asking 3 questions, I think. Who do I trust? Who's got the leadership background to be governor, and who can deliver results? And I think on all 3 of those, as people get to know me and they see my record, I'm the best candidate to lead this state for the next 8 years.
But this is more than an endorsement. This is an endorsement from the President of the United States, the highest profile Republican in the country. Your thoughts on that the President seems to be maybe backing someone else in this race?
Sure. I mean, look, I don't focus on that. I focus on the fact that I believe that I'm the right man for the job, the right person for the job. I've got the background for it, and we'll have a 67-county campaign. We're going to go out and see voters, and we're going to work hard, and with hard work and God's help, we're going to win.
There is one other name that has been bandied about. There's probably other names that our viewers don't know about that I don't even know about, but one name that has been discussed possibly is Governor DeSantis' wife, Casey. Do you foresee her possibly entering the race, and if so, how would you respond to that?
I don't know. I mean, she's great. You'd have to ask her whether she's going to enter. I don't believe she is, but I just don't know. You'd have to ask her.
As far as Florida, there has been a massive shift in the last, pretty much during the DeSantis administration, from a deep purple state, the biggest swing state in the union, to a reliable red state. How did that happen?
Because we led in big, bold ways, you know, strong colors, not pale pastels, as Reagan used to say. And whether that's our universal school choice that I championed, or the litigation reform that we did that's gotten insurance costs under control finally, to our social media bill, to ending DEI, and the list goes on and on. We've led from the front. I've led from the front as Speaker, and that's why I think people are committed. I meet people all the time that have moved to Florida because of some of those things I just mentioned. Because we're a leader.
It's interesting because it's timely. You just used the phrase strong pastel colors. It's been a social issue in Florida that's gone on the last few days. They, at the behest of the federal government, Governor DeSantis has been painting over sidewalks and crosswalks, like rainbow crosswalks down in Orlando and other ones in Jacksonville. Governor DeSantis has weighed into the culture wars a lot during his time as governor, and some have cheered it, some have not liked it. Your thoughts on that? Will you kind of continue with that?
Well, look, I don't think it's a war that I started or the governor started, and so whether it's transgender surgeries on minors, I think you look at England and places that started that, they have really receded from that. We banned that here in Florida, and so absolutely, when it comes to some of the crazy things that were contested in this last election, I believe one reason Donald Trump won is because of just kind of the craziness that's been pushed by the left. And so I will fight the left. I fought the left. I've beaten them. If you look at Amendments 3 and 4, pot and abortion, I strongly got engaged in that. That was not part of my job as Speaker. School board races, I was involved in 2022 and 2024. Again, not something a Speaker has to do, but I wade into it because I want education to be about education, not indoctrination. I don't want conservative indoctrination. I want kids to learn the basics. And when we have 40% of our students who don't read on grade level, that's a problem. And so we need to focus on the basics of education as an example. So if that's a culture war, then I guess I'm a culture warrior. But I'm not looking to fight. I mean, I want to make sure we have a Florida that works for everybody. But on the issue of roads, look, roads are about safety, and I don't care if it's a conservative or a liberal piece of art on the road. That art belongs in a graffiti wall or some other place or in a museum, not in the middle of a roadway where you see a bunch of rainbow stripes or blue stripes on the road. It may confuse drivers and cause them to be injured. So I think the governor is right on that. I think it's a public safety issue, frankly.
On the issue of roads, we need to build a lot. This place is growing massively as a state. Like, the old-time Floridians are just probably at breakneck speed how fast it's grown. How do we keep up with that? I mean, we're dealing with everything from building codes and, you know, from here in Jacksonville down to Miami, getting stuff built in time from schools to fire stations to getting enough police out there. Is Florida growing too fast for its own good?
Well, I think we're slowing down in growth, and I think that's a good thing. And look, you know, there's the positives. That's success. People want to be here, but the problem with that is it puts pressure on our infrastructure, our roads, our environment. And so when I was Speaker, we looked down not just to what's the hot issue of the day, but what's going to happen 20, 30 years down the road in infrastructure and set up committees for that purpose. We invested in things like the Florida Wildlife Corridor to say, hey, let's set aside some of wild Florida that's off limits for development so that we can continue to enjoy the great outdoors that we have in Florida. A lot of us are here for fishing and hunting and just enjoying our parks. We're not going to, as governor, I'm not going to allow commercial development of our parks. I can tell you that. One
of the big issues that Governor DeSantis has fought and taken a lot of criticism for has been our insurance issue. How do you handle the insurance industry with a, for whatever reason, a state that continues to see storms every year, and we have massive infrastructure issues?
Yeah. Well, one of the issues that had nothing to do with storms is litigation abuse, and nobody had been able to take it on. Even advocates said you're not going to be able to do it. And as Speaker, that was one of the things that I led when people counted us out and we got it done. And so it's resulted in a reversal of double-digit increases in homeowners. Last year, homeowners went up 1%. Autos actually going down as much as 10 or 11%. Nothing's going down in America by that much. And so this was a success by getting rid of garbage lawsuits while still allowing people to move forward with legitimate lawsuits. Now, we also curbed the insurers. We put accountability on them and said if you misbehave and you don't pay claims timely, we're going to hammer you. And so our focus, my focus, has been and will be on consumers, period.
What do you say, David Jolly is the name of a man who may run on the other side of things. You have a lot of people who maybe voted Republican for the first time and maybe they weren't thrilled about it. It's not their cup of tea and they felt they had to for whatever reason, but they're in the middle right now and they may go back and forth. What do you say to the people who hear terms at the federal level and a little on the state level, authoritarian, things like that? How do you reach out to those voters who just aren't quite sure they want to go with the Republican brand?
Well, look, I think common sense is a success in politics. And for me, I'm a conservative. I'm a DeSantis-style conservative. And to me, a lot of his policies and the policies I advocated for are really based in common sense. But you're right. When either party gets too far over their skis, the voters will reject that. But I've leaned in on a lot of conservative issues. But I've also leaned in, as I mentioned, on the wildlife corridor, on data privacy, things that Democrats, independents, Republicans all care about.
Yeah, Paul Renner, born in Atlanta, but he's got a lengthy history in Jacksonville, saying that he moved here as a child in second grade. He's worked in downtown Jacksonville, now lives in Palm Coast. All right, so what does Paul Renner's entry mean for the race to the governor's mansion? Rick Mullaney is our political analyst, and he's joining us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
The News for Jax political analyst Rick Mullaney joins me, Executive Director of Jacksonville University's Public Policy Institute. Rick just reminded me it's been 10 years. We've been doing this together. You've been providing some of your insights. Appreciate it. Let's talk about this run for governor. Paul Renner obviously saying he's in. But it's more than a year until that election for governor, and a lot can happen in that time.
Kent, that's really well put. It is more than a year from now. It's a year from November. A lot can happen, but his entrance into the race is pretty significant. If qualifications matter, he's very substantial, and you heard him outline some of that. He's a lawyer. He's a veteran who served in the war in the Gulf. He's a former prosecutor in the legislature, speaker, and recently appointed to the Board of Governors for the state university system. Very substantial in terms of credentials. But Kent, he's got a tall order in front of him. Byron Donalds has Donald Trump's endorsement. He's got over $20 million in the bank. Very substantial, but it does suggest in that primary, which by the way is where this may be fought, it may be more competitive than some think, but that primary is critical next August in the governor's race. Byron Donalds, very substantial. Paul Renner has got the great credentials, has the strong resume, the background and the experience. We'll see if that translates politically.
Yeah, so I just heard in the interview that Scott Johnson did with Speaker Renner, the speaker said, I'm a Ron DeSantis conservative. So does that mean that he aligns there, or that we could expect that he'll get support from the governor?
Well, I think the first thing it means is that he didn't get Trump's endorsement.
Right. Well, we know that's right.
We do. And by the way, in Florida today, that's very substantial. Remember in 2018, that was the decisive factor for Governor DeSantis. But I also think it's true that he was Speaker of the House with Governor DeSantis. But Governor DeSantis himself, it's interesting to see where he's going to land. There have been rumblings about Casey DeSantis, although there hasn't been a lot of movement. And by the way, recent polling says she polls pretty well. There's also another wild card here in Lieutenant Governor. He appointed Jay Collins. Jay Collins is another one who's got a substantial resume, of another veteran, served in the legislature. There's some whispers that he may get the DeSantis endorsement. So we'll have to see where DeSantis lands on this. We've already seen where Donald Trump lands on this. And there's sort of this presumption that it's going to be all about the Republican primary, and there's some reason for that. But this could be a more competitive race than some people think.
Well, we heard Scott talking about it with Speaker Renner as well. Things have changed in Florida in the last couple of big election cycles where Florida was purple, and now it's much more red, isn't it?
Kent, it's stunning. Back in 2000, which seems like yesterday to me, but I do understand was 25 years ago, we actually had 500 votes separating in the presidency of the United States. And we've had Florida, the purple state. We were the purple state. Sometimes we'd vote for Clinton, sometimes for Bush, sometimes for Obama, sometimes for Trump. But there's been a shift, a migration in voters, a change in demographics. It used to be that Democrats had an advantage in registration of over 600,000. Today, the shift is to the Republican side by more than 1.2 million in advantage Republicans. And that's why you've seen that in 2016, Donald Trump won Florida by 1%. In 2020, he won it by 3%. And in 2024, he won it by 13%. And that's not because you were persuading more people. It's also in part because of a shift in migration and demographics. So the playing field is advantage Republican. But remember this, Donald Trump does have some sinking approval numbers. We're a long way from November, and history has been on the side of the party out of power against the party who's the incumbent. So some are asking, is it possibility we're going to see a bit of a blue wave, particularly in the House of Representatives? How about in those state legislatures? Long way to November. We're going to have to see what the fortunes of Donald Trump are, and that could affect Byron Donalds' candidacy pretty significantly.
Well, I think that's maybe my final question for us talking about this. Whose endorsement or support would mean the most in Florida in a run for governor? I guess we'll find out, but is it still President Trump, or could it be that Governor DeSantis leaning in would sway voters?
My short answer is Donald Trump. I mean, for now...
That's what we've seen.
Yeah, that's what we've seen historically. I think it's true today. Could things change in the future with so many things going on? Where do tariffs land? What about foreign policy? What about some of the policies with the president, his sinking numbers? But for now, it's key. It's Donald Trump's endorsement. On the Democratic side, by the way, you have David Jolly, who's
a former Republican.
A former Republican, big critic of Donald Trump, whose really recent polling over the summer showed him only 5 points behind Byron Donalds. If you were handicapping this, it's advantage Republicans, but there's a long way to go, and this could be a more competitive race than some people think.
Yeah, we'll certainly be watching it, and I would imagine, would you expect that more candidates will enter the fray?
There are more giving this some serious thought, and we have to wait and see who enters this. Paul Renner entering may prompt some others to enter this more competitive, on the Republican side in particular. On the Democratic side, that could also happen. The short answer is yes, there are a number of candidates that will be giving this a consideration for running. We have a long way to go, but this entrance by Paul Renner, very significant.
Yeah, so not Casey DeSantis yet, not Wilton Simpson, the agriculture commissioner, yet, but certainly some names that we'll be watching as we go through this. Rick Mullaney, thank you for watching, and thank you for helping us out as we analyze this.
Great being with you, Kent.
All right, so stay with us because just ahead we're looking at an event from the Department of Veterans Affairs and how the Jaguars are engaged to try and help end suicide in the veteran community. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Our focus in this final segment today, a pretty important topic anywhere, and especially in a veteran-friendly community like Jacksonville and Northeast Florida, Southeast Georgia. We're joined today by Catherine Sperry, the Suicide Prevention Program Supervisor for the Department of Veterans Affairs, North Florida, South Georgia. Also with us today, Dr. George Shorter, who's Associate Chief of Mental Health. I appreciate you being here. And we've done some work like this before. You know this is a passion of mine, trying to help prevent, to end veteran suicide. So tell us about this event. We're talking about something coming up on September 11th in Jacksonville. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have be hosting our second annual Our Veterans Matter event. And this is an event that is a one-stop shop for all things veteran caregivers, families, and friends. So we will have everything from eligibility and enrollment to the Veterans Benefits Administration there to help with any claims that veterans may have. We will be having primary care, mental health, and over 90 different community providers that will be there.
Okay, yeah, so I think initially when we started talking, we were saying like 80, so more are coming, more partners are coming on board. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Dr. Shorter, when it comes to this issue of veteran suicide, what are some of the ways, and how does this event help? What are some of the ways that we can help see that decline and hopefully just end so that it's not an issue for our veterans anymore?
Well, I think our community's done a great job already. We have a lot of interest, a lot of participation in events like this. The Jacksonville community always stands up for veterans. And one of the things we really hope to do in this particular event is, with our partners, One Degree of Separation, really get people talking about what creates the sort of circumstances for suicide, and how we, all of us, health providers, suicide prevention experts, and just community members, veterans, family members, how we can all participate in stopping suicides from happening in our community. So they're going to do so with some levity, which I think is a tool for them to get that message across. They've done so with other audiences as well, like DOD and VA audiences, military service members. We know they're going to be great partners and help start the conversation.
I kind of want to hear a little bit more about this, so some levity. So comedy to kind of touch on this topic, which is very serious, right?
Yeah, comedy is a way to get people's attention. It's a method to get to their heart, to get them engaged. I think when I say, hey, you want to talk about what you can do to prevent suicides? I mean, a lot of people don't jump up and go, yeah, I got everything I need to start that conversation. Most people take a couple steps back or worry that they might say the wrong thing. Truly, the thing is not saying anything, feeling disengaged. That's what we want to prevent. We want to help people know what to do, and we want to get them engaged with all the resources the VA brings to bear, the community as well. And we want them to know 988 as well as they know 911. You know.
And Catherine, tell me, sort of community getting involved. I know you mentioned to me the Jacksonville Jaguars are getting involved with the mascot, the drumline, the Roar cheerleaders even.
Yes, all of our veterans, families, and caregivers will be met by the Jags mascot, the cheerleaders, and the drumline out front. We're going to have sweet treats, catered carts for our veterans and families that will be joining us. And we're actually going to have the Bold City Brass playing a live concert in the venue as well.
Yeah, they're a quartet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so got some live music there and the comedy that we're talking about here. I know you said this is second annual, so How was the event last year? And what are things that you say, yeah, those were successes, those helped us meet the needs of our community?
Well, I think one of the things that was amazing to us is just having this venue, ViStar coming through with us for our partnership. And we did a good job of getting a lot of seats filled there, but we want to top that this year. One of the things that made that exciting is when we do this in Jacksonville, like I said, our partners show up. This is this town that supports veterans, supports service members. And so people are excited to come. And a lot of people connected with resources, a lot of resource partners that we have. This was one option or opportunity for them to connect with one another, because we're all out working in our little silos, trying to, help the mental health community, help the health community, prevent suicides and so forth.
Catherine, let me give you the last word in the last 30 seconds. Then I want to show people some information about the event as well.
I just really want to emphasize that this isn't just about mental health. We're going to have resources there about housing, housing assistance, in health insurance, and just anything that is veteran focused that would help support the entire veteran. We want to treat the veteran as a whole, and that's the most important thing.
I appreciate it. We're going to show you some information here. Our Veterans Matter. This is a Veterans Resource Fair, September 11th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena downtown. Thank you so much for your time today. Best success with it. And thanks for joining us. I'm Ken Justice. Appreciate you watching on air on Channel 4, the CW17, and you find us online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. Next time, we've been working to get Congressman Randy Fine to join us, so look for that. And don't forget to check out our podcast, This Week in Jacksonville, Business Edition.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.